Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, it's a beautiful sunny day. The birds are singing. Might even be cockerels singing. Do cockerels sing? They kind of crow, don't they? Maybe they can crow about Tottenham's weekend because it was a very good weekend. Another one where everyone else slipped up and Tottenham absolutely took the pressure and slapped it away. It wasn't the easiest, despite the 4-0 scoreline. But they did the job they needed to do. It was quite surprising, actually, some of the other results. I mean, my colleague Guesty, who you may well know from our podcast Golden Guest Talk Tottenham, was delighted with Everton beating Man U. And then we had the Arsenal game where, probably like many of you, absolutely expected Brighton to go there and kind of continue to struggle, as they have. But they played very well. We kind of watched it all unfold in the Villa Park press room. It was like no one could leave and go up and watch. We pretty much missed a big chunk of the warm-ups because everyone was in there just waiting to see, like counting down those last seconds, because we were kind of probably watching it like many of you were. Michael Dawson on Sky Sports News at Soccer Saturday kind of watching the final minutes of added time, and just obviously Arsenal started to creep back in with that deflected Odegaard goal, and big kind of moment for Tottenham that this weekend, I don't know if I said this at the end of the last video, that kind of felt like, weirdly, despite the fixtures, this was going to be quite a key weekend because Tottenham had to go to Villa Park and get something. They had to. It laid down their credentials, essentially. It just it did. And especially because I think in my head, I'm thinking, well, Man, you're probably going to go to Everton and win because Everton are in a bad way. And Brighton, and Arsenal are going to beat Brighton. As it was an incredible weekend for Tottenham because they absolutely took charge of everything. It was super. Oh, I just should say, Indy is next to me today. The girls have gone out today, so it's just him and I. So if he does make any funny noises or decides to shove his head in the video, which he hasn't actually done yet, and Dave, my neighbour's dog Dylan, is back, who is one of Indy's best mates. So if he hears Dylan go, he will go as well. He'll start barking. So apologies in advance if that happens. Or if any human being or leaf blows by, he will maybe bark. But back to the football. It was one of those days where you kind of felt the Spurs players had to kind of decide their own destiny, didn't they, really? It was a bit like, okay, everyone else has lost, or not West Ham, because they're still to play at this point. But, Arsenal, Man U lost. What are you going to do? Are you just going to accept that, yes, they won, they lost, and we don't have to really worry about today too much now? Or are you going to say, brilliant, they lost, now let's take this? They went for the latter. But I should say, they were hugely indebted to Hugo Lloris. Hugo Lloris was superb. In the first half alone, he had 7 shots to face. And I'm not talking about like little shots. They were proper shots. But he just kind of stood there, a bit like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, like, you shall not pass, kind of thing, just refusing to let Aston Villa through. I mean, some of the shots he had, it was Jacob Ramsey. Jacob Ramsey kind of was far too easily able to dribble into the box, and then from just outside the 6-yard box, pile drive this shot, which kind of Lloris just did that to. It was a bit like wax on, wax off from Karate Kid. It was an incredible reaction save from point blank range. But then you also had other ones. You had McGinn and Cash both having kind of long-range rocket shots that he had to palm away. And then right before half-time, what do I call him? Philippe Coutinho, that's his name. What do you call him? Did one of those kind of clever little kicks. I think he scored from before, a free kick, where he just curls it. Looks like he's going to curl it into the box, but actually tries a shot at goal. And Lloris had to kind of quickly backpedal across his line. He literally got his hand to it on the line. It was so close. And we're all kind of looking at the referee to see whether he went to his watch to, signal it just crossed the line, but it hadn't. Lloris was superb. That's for me. I mean, we've seen him pull off world-class saves, but I think in terms of dominating performance that really saved Tottenham's backside, that was up there. And in such a crucial game as well. Sonny afterwards in his interview, Sonny the hat-trick hero, who was brilliant, but Sonny was saying that was about Lloris. If Lloris hadn't done that, if Hugo hadn't bailed us out, we'd have been, maybe 3-1, 4-1 down. And that was the weird thing. Tottenham scored first. Tottenham flew up the pitch, and we're all like, hello, kind of like, was it 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes 45 seconds, something like that. Sonny, Kane's block shot, Son lovely left-footed volley straight into that inside the left-hand post, which is a very popular target for him yesterday, as we'll talk about in a bit. And you kind of thought, okay, Tottenham on a roll, and then Villa absolutely bullied, bashed, battered, bruised Tottenham. They really did. They were pinning them in their own half. They were very good, Villa. They were rough. Of course they were. I saw people on social media during it really going mad about the challenges. But you know what? In the flesh, kind of seeing it there, and also seeing replays, I'd say they were probably tough tackles. I wouldn't say they were nasty. There were a couple of tackles that were definitely after the ball. There was one, fun enough, on Romero after he'd passed the ball, which weirdly didn't get anything. There was no yellow card. I can't remember who did the tackle. But actually, that was one of the ones where I kind of thought, well, that was a bit naughty. But even things like, it was like when Danny Ings tried to block Sergio Reguilon clearance, and Reguilon kicked his foot. And it's a bit like, that's not a nasty challenge. It's just players going in for something. And, the challenge on Matt Doherty, I can't remember who did it, but I can understand why you'd be aggrieved, because it was a little bit of a scissors action to it, which is why Doherty's knee was a bit rocked. And again, we'll talk about him in a bit. But I would say it was just a really competitive match. I think they were very much playing in Steven Gerrard's image. Very much absolutely kind of throwing themselves at everything kind of performance. And, Spurs soaked it up with Lloris's help. Don't get me wrong. Lloris wasn't there and absolutely on top form. It could have been a very different game. But it's in these big matches where your big players stand up. And I feel like Lloris did that in the first half. And that kind of inspired the big players to then do that in the second half. And Conte ripped into them as well, I think, at half-time. I kind of got the sense, I saw a Lloris interview afterwards, and I kind of got the sense that Conte wasn't happy. Certainly about competing, the competitive side of things. I think, Spurs did a lot of good kind of defensive work, and obviously as well as Lloris. But in terms of getting the ball up the pitch, pretty much I think it was only the Son goal, and Reguilon had like a weird deflected shot that was almost deflected past the keeper. But I was trying to think. I can't think of anything else they did in that first half. They just didn't really get out. And what Conte said afterwards, which, we'll do story time with Conte a bit later, but essentially alluded to the fact that, when teams press like that, there are spaces in behind, and then it's all about your composure on the ball and how you use it. And that was where Spurs let themselves down that first half. They were very sloppy in possession. I think it was, Conte said something about, what did he say? He said that was it. He wanted to remove the space where Coutinho was finding little pockets to work within. And that was key. It's something about, he was saying that the kind of the front three were too far forward, and they weren't, they were just what was it, the midfield? It may have been actually Bentancur and Hojbjerg were allowing that little bit of space for Coutinho to operate in, and he just tweaked that at half time, and just bang, Spurs came out, and it was almost like a slap down, wasn't it? It was really, you did all that, but you couldn't score. Look at the stats. I'd written down the stats, so I remembered them, right? I don't know why I said that. Villa had 19 shots on goal, 8 on target, but they couldn't put the ball in the net even once. And in contrast, Spurs had 11 attempts on goal, 5 on target, and scored 4 of them. I think that's where you say #clinical if you were doing a tweet. That's how you do it. It was a cliched game of two halves. It really was. But it was one born of a team and a club that's finally together again. That is the biggest thing I think you can give to Conte. Conte's worked wonders. Even his biggest critics will have to say he has worked some magic at Tottenham. And what he's done is he's stitched together a football club that was just in tatters. It was. You've seen me looking far sadder in these videos before, because the mess that was left at Tottenham Hotspur in the last 2.5, 3 years, longer probably. You could just see it ripping apart at the seams, and he's come in with a big old needle and he's stitched it all back together, and they're flying. They make no mistake. Tottenham are flying. The amount of goals. What's that? 34 goals now in 2022. They're blowing teams away. And that was the big thing again about yesterday, was that they soaked up that pressure, dealt with it, relied on their keeper, yes, but they just ripped Villa apart in that second half. You know, Steven Gerrard, after the game, he came out first, which was really annoying to me because I had to catch what was essentially my last train back to London. And it was one of those where you go, Conte come out first, Conte come out for the press conference, please. Oh, Steven Gerrard. And but he was actually quite interesting. He was just essentially saying the first half for him was the best he'd seen his Villa side play since he'd come to the club. Sorry, there's no need to sigh. It's all right. I've got to talk about the opposition manager sometimes. This is one of these where you probably didn't pick that up on the microphone, but he just went like that. Yeah, it's the best he'd seen his team play, he said, but they just couldn't put the ball in the net. And then he said, second half, he said, you've got to give it to Tottenham. The quality was incredible in their attacking play. But also, you know, lots of defensive errors from Villa. And they were. It was a bit similar to how Newcastle played in the second half as well. It seems to be a little theme at the moment of overstretching themselves, not having the fitness perhaps to keep up the levels of the first half. And in doing so, Spurs, who are super fit under Conte, it's no coincidence that Spurs in second halves are only getting stronger right now. And that's because they're drilled, absolutely drilled on that training ground by Conte and his coaches to be ridiculously fit. And they are. They're tearing teams apart right now. I asked the first question of the press conference yesterday, almost just to try and get it done quickly because I wanted to get the train, which was a very selfish way of looking at the press conference. But Conte, to be fair, he just did his normal long answers anyway, which were very interesting. I asked him, whether he felt that the character of his players in that first half, and obviously the performance of Hugo Lloris, just how important that was to the foundation of this performance, and also perhaps going forward into the final run of games. And he, I'll tell you exactly what he said. It's a bit of a long quote, so bear with me. Very, very important. A strong team, a top team, needs to have great character, great personality to be strong mentally, because during the game, you can have a period that you have to suffer because your opponent is pushing you a lot. Today, the first half was difficult, but we knew this because when you play against Aston Villa away in this stadium, this fantastic atmosphere, I don't think there is one team that comes here and wins easy. For this reason, I appreciate the effort of our players, the composure and desire to stay strong, and in the second half, I think we won the game in an important way. For sure, we have to be better when there is this type of pressure, and we have to continue to have the personality to try and play, because every time we played, we created a chance to score. If you're an opponent that puts pressure and you take the risk to play, then you have space to attack, as in for the other team. I think that we have to continue to do this and improve. In the second half, we were much better. Also because the intensity of Aston Villa dropped and the pressure was less than the first half. It was a great win for us. It wasn't easy, but a great win. Especially when you play a game after the game of your rivals in the race for Champions League, and they lost. Wolverhampton, Manchester United and Arsenal. We had to show in this moment that you start to feel the blood of your opponent, and it's important not to fail. For this reason, we're working a lot on the mentality. The players are giving me great satisfaction in many aspects. And that's what it is. He likes the blood reference, smelling the blood, a bit like a vampire, going in for the kill, essentially. Or a predator, or a vampire. I could have used any kind of normal thing from the world that actually does exist. Although some people may believe in vampires, I don't know. But, he's right. He's right. I think that was his full answer that he gave me as well. And he knows what he's doing, Conte. He does. I love the way he analyses the games afterwards. And even if there's bits, you probably don't notice. I always say this about kind of working in the press box, is that because we're writing as well, we probably see maybe just over half of the game, maybe pushing towards 2/3 at times. Some games, if you're having to write a lot, it can be even lower than that. So it's really interesting sometimes to hear that little extra analysis that the manager puts in afterwards, and then you can kind of watch it back and you can see a lot of these things. It's fascinating. And he's one of these guys. I've been very fortunate. I kind of, even with Nuno, I've found it interesting to listen to the way all the managers talk about the game and when they respond to my questions, how they answer. And with Conte, same with Mourinho as well. And Poch, I'd say, when you got him off camera, when you actually sat down and spoke to him about tactics, was fascinating. Maybe less so when he was actually in front of a camera talking about it. But certainly with Mourinho and Conte, the way they drill down into a game when they go there is really interesting. But yeah, as I said, Lloris, brilliant first half, and then actually grabbed the pre-assist in the second half as well with the big boot upfield to Kane. But he just inspired the big players for Tottenham. Then I felt second half to absolutely push on. Sonny, the hat-trick hero. As I say, the smiling assassin right now. He is flying. You know, I've made it very clear that even when he wasn't, in my mind, particularly confident, he was still contributing goal and assists. Now, he's confident again. And someone pointed out to me today as well, when Sonny goes through to score his second goal, Reguilon's already celebrating. I think that says everything about Sonny right now, is that he's now back in that vein of form where he runs through and goal and you think, yeah, he's going to score. Like Kane. You know, the two of them, when they run through, and actually I'd go and say Kulusevski now falls into that category as well. They're so confident. And as I said, Sonny, every goal in the same pretty much area, you know, right either inside that left-hand post or not touching the inside of that post and going in. It was such a clinical display. It was so good. I was going to say I wanted to say his stats as well, because that's now taken him up to 17 Premier League goals, which I think matches his highest total of Premier League goals, which came last season. And he's now only 3 off Salah, you know, who's leading the top scorer chase. But it's also interesting when you look at that. I think Salah has 5 penalties among his total 20. Did I say? Yeah, he's only 3 off Salah. I think I said that. Salah's got 20. Yeah, so 5 penalties among that. Obviously, Sonny doesn't take the penalties for Spurs. That's Kane. So, you know, he's not getting any free hits, as it were. And the conversion rates. So Sonny's taken just 54 shots compared to Salah's 89. And Sonny's got a goal conversion rate of 31% to Salah's 22%. And Son's got a shot accuracy of 69% compared to the Liverpool guys. Liverpool has 61%, which says it all. And he was so good. His movement just pulls them all over the shop. When he's in this kind of he's just smiling. The way he's playing the game, he's just loving what he's doing. And you can see that on the football pitch. You know, each of his finishes were just sublime. The first one right inside the corner, second one off the post, and third one off the post as well. Lovely little kind of curling effort. Keeper no chance with any of them. Absolutely no chance. And that's the mark of a finisher, is to just put them in those corners where they're unsavable. He was excellent. He got a massive hug when he came off from Conte. I think someone said he gave him a bit of an Italian peck on the cheek as well. I didn't see that from where I was, but it certainly saw him give him a huge hug. And then Fabio Paratici gave him a massive hug at the final whistle as well. And obviously walked away with a hat-trick ball. You know, he deserves more of those hat-trick balls, Sonny. I think he's got it in him, you know, to score even more goals. And what's to say, if he keeps going at this rate that Spurs are at the moment, and the chances they're creating, who's to say he can't sneak in there and win the golden boot? You know, Salah will, of course, be doing everything he can, and obviously a big game for him later today against Man City, but Sonny's got to feel that when you look at the fixtures ahead and the way Spurs are playing, he's going to get the chances to score. That would be an incredible end to the season, wouldn't it? If Kane won it last year and Sonny won it this year. And, you know, bearing in mind, Spurs have been, you know, a pretty poor side for chunks of this season. For Sonny to still do that, incredible. Absolutely incredible player he is. And we're seeing a player kind of starting to reach his peak, I feel. You know, he's 29, and he doesn't look like there's going to be any chance of slowing down anytime soon as well. So the fact that he's committed to Spurs, new contract at the start of this season, exciting times, I think, for Sonny ahead, and hopefully Tottenham. But, you know, just the link up between the 3 players up front now, it's just... I know I speak about it every week, but I could speak about it forever. I could just do videos purely on these 3 guys, because Kulusevski is the missing piece of the jigsaw. Yeah, just as a trio, they work so well. The biggest compliment I can pay to Kulusevski is that he's come in now. And he looks like he's played alongside them forever. And for a 21-year-old, I must keep repeating that, 21-year-old to come to a new league, a new country he's never played in before, and to look as comfortable and just knowing Son and Kane's runs inside out already. It's remarkable. It's the sign of a very intelligent player. Someone that is really... Sorry, I'm aware that the lighting of this video might be going a bit crazy. I think it's because the sun keeps kind of going in and out of clouds. So sorry, it looks like it's probably a nuclear explosion sometimes when you see my face. But Kane, let's start with Kane. 5 assists in 3 matches recently. That's the thing, he's not scoring in the last couple of games, but he still is running matches. And his 2 assists yesterday, they were both with his head, but they were almost as good, or maybe as good as anything you'd see a player play with their foot. It was that good. I mean, the first one was like a kind of, showed his strength. Kind of the 2 centre-backs kind of around him, and just flicked it onto Kulusevski. And it was just, it was more about the strength, the first one. The second flicked-on header, I loved it. I watched a replay, and Guesty sat alongside me, probably heard me making strange, overexcited noises about it, because if you watch it back, it just turns his head. It is like a proper like that. It's like a real deliberate through ball, but with his head. And what he does in making that movement, he spins the ball. So when the ball lands in front of Sonny, it's kind of like how to put it? I suppose I've used this analogy before, but a little bit like a golf shot. So it has that spin, and it does. It spins in the turf at pace, and it just curls. It spins into Sonny's pass so that he can run forward and take it on. And then, obviously he's still got to do the hard job of putting it in the net, but it's just the way it is flighted into his path. It's lovely. Kane is, I think this is the thing. I think we're seeing peak Sonny and Kane together, and we're seeing, I think it was quite interesting. Gerrard said this afterwards. Jonathan Veal from the Press Association, who you'll know probably that I spend a lot of my time with him and Guesty on these trips away with Spurs and the home games. So John asked Gerrard, do you think this could be the best front three in the Premier League right now? And obviously, Gerrard, being a Liverpool man, was never going to say yes. And he said, look, you've got to look at Liverpool and Man City, of course, as well. He said, but I would say that they have 2 world-class players up front, and a player in the young lad from, as in his words, the young lad from Juventus, Kulusevski, someone who could become a top player. I'd go as far to say Kulusevski's already getting there very quickly. Very, very quickly. I mean, his goal was lovely. Took the ball on from Kane's header, just finished it. It was a finish that Kane or Son would have been proud of. Through Ming's legs right into the far corner. It was a lovely finish. It was a proper striker's finish. And then obviously the assist as well. The assist, which I remember kind of thinking at the start of the move, like, lovely feet from Kulusevski. He played it out. I can't remember if it was to Emerson or Hojbjerg, but he got out of a really tight spot on the right-hand side of the box. And I actually turned to Guesty and I said, it'd be lovely if a goal comes from this. And boom, 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 all the way up the pitch. Kulusevski gets the ball, passes. The defence doesn't know what he's going to do, because he will sometimes go to the touchline and try and pull the ball back. He will sometimes cut inside. And this is the beauty of it. This is something that I asked for, and I got a little bit criticised by Swedish fans, and that's fine. I said at the start, I felt that he was too much cutting in on his left-hand side. But I actually feel that now, and this, it may be that he's confident, so he's back to doing this, or it may be that Conte has asked him to do that, but he is mixing it up. He is sometimes going to the line and pulling it back. He is sometimes coming in. And that's the mark of a confident, dangerous player. And, and he did on this occasion, did cut inside, looked up, clever pass to Sonny, who then stroked it beautifully into the left-hand post and in. And, Kulusevski, I've got some of the numbers here as well. So, they are fantastic. So, Kane, Son and Kulusevski hold the top 3 most goal involvements in 2022 in the Premier League. So, those 3 players sit at the top of the pack. You've got Kulusevski, 3 goals and 6 assists. Son, 9 goals and 4 assists. And Kane, 8 goals and 7 assists. You know, if you want to look at how and why Tottenham are on an absolute blitz of goals, you just look at those 3 players. And that's the beauty of it. And, you know, Conte was talking in the week about he wants to bring in a playmaker. He wants to bring in another 10. He wants a number 10. He wants Kane to purely not purely focus on being a number 9, but more focus on that, while also adding a little bit of the unpredictability of being able to come back. But he actually says he'd like another number 10. Do you know what? I get that for the squad strength and competition. 100% understand that, and I agree. But I don't want to break up that front 3. That front 3 is incredible. You know, I guess, yes, you could kind of... I suppose he'd have to switch to a 4-2-3-1, which, you know, he very much enjoys that back 3. So I don't know quite now, unless you change that system, really, how that works, unless it's a deeper lying playmaker, which wouldn't really be a number 10 so much. But yeah, I love that front 3. And I know you've got to have different options. And I know, hopefully, with the way Spurs are going, there's going to be a lot of matches next season. Of course, you're going to constantly need to be changing up, be unpredictable. But honestly, I think this front 3, you know, they could be spoken about like your Salah's, Mane and Firmino's, like these kind of trios. And I really think I wouldn't want to break them up for anything. But of course, there's going to be injuries and things like that. So I get it. But yeah, what a trio. And then behind them on the pitch, I felt Bentancur again, very composed, very much knitting the lines together. Better, obviously, in the second half. First half, I felt for Kulusevski and Bentancur, it was a bit like welcome to the Premier League. It was like, you're going to get battered and all that. And obviously, Bentancur, you know, he's a Uruguayan and such. South American football, they're used to being a bit physical. So I think he probably dealt with it a little bit better in the first half than Kulusevski. Although he wasn't alone, Kulusevski. Kane, Son and Kulusevski, apart from the goal at the start, obviously they struggled a little bit. But then I think that was to do with that gap to the defence. They weren't getting the ball enough. But Bentancur, yeah, very composed again. But you know what? I felt, if you're going to pick out a standout midfielder, I felt it was Hojbjerg yesterday. I felt he battled for everything, threw himself for everything, wound Villa up absolutely. I was going to use a bad word there. Where's the best way to describe this? Like, you know when you have that nephew, that annoying little nephew, he'll come round to your house, a kid, and he'll look at you with an evil smile just before he's about to knock something over or break something. But actually, when you go away to other people's houses and you see him at family occasions, funny little cute kid. It's kind of, in a weird analogy, it's kind of what Hojbjerg is like, in terms of you want him to be on your side because he is very good at what he does and he's excellent. For other teams, he must be the most annoying person ever because he does. He will draw fouls. He will lie on that floor and he will hold various parts of his body in utter pain as if they've just been shot. But to be fair, he does take whacks as well. You know, after the game, he put on Instagram a photo of him with 2 ice bags on both knees because the amount of whacks he got in them. But I felt he was superb yesterday, and it was kind of a general shared view of everyone in the press area. They were very much like, you know, that was him being a bit of a midfield general, a leader, someone taking the hits for the team. And it was funny, actually, I did my player ratings, and as is the way that social media always works, I had someone immediately, as soon as the player ratings went up, with, how much is Hojbjerg blackmailing you to give him these marks? Because I think I gave him a 9. And it's just like, come on. I know sometimes you get it in your head you don't like a player and you'd rather see this player you've used in Football Manager or FIFA rather be in the midfield. But it doesn't mean that you can't recognise a good performance, you know. You've got to recognise game. And that was certainly superb from Hojbjerg. I thought he was so good. Who else was I going to talk? Christian Romero. I thought the back 3 did okay, but Dyer had a couple of shaky moments in the first half, a little coming, but on the whole, I felt he grew into it and was making a lot of important interceptions. Ben Davies, again, another solid display on the left, also in bringing the ball forward a fair bit as well in the second half. But for me, again, Romero, it was a very mature performance. there were a couple of moments where you were kind of like, no. Like one in the second half, when Spurs were like, I think it was they were 3-0 up at this point. They just suddenly came over to the left-hand side and was making a big one of those, those where he kind of likes to almost come through the back of someone to get the ball challenges. And he was doing it. It was like he missed. And it was like, oh, God, you missed. Because what he did manage to do yesterday was not get a yellow card, which in isolation sounds like so. But actually, it was really crucial because if you weren't aware, if he were to get a yellow card yesterday at Villa Park and one at Brighton, he would have reached 10 yellow cards and he would have then missed 2 matches. However, as it is now, unless he goes and gets himself sent off against Brighton, even if he gets 1 yellow card against Brighton after that game next weekend, is the cut-off point and they get wiped off. So he will have made it. The fact that he's on 8 Premier League yellow cards, and I think it's maybe 10 or 11 in total in all competitions, plus a red card, despite missing 3 months of the season, it's clearly a little bit of an issue of a fantastic player. And Conte said it, he gets too many yellow cards he doesn't need to get. And hopefully that will be something they work on, because it's just about selecting the right moments to do. You don't want to take away his front foot defending. That's a whole part of who he is. It's a little bit like people used to say about Rooney. So you don't want to take away the aggression from his game, because a lot of what he does that's good comes from that. And the same with Romero. But you've also got to, with age and experience, he's only 23. He's got to pick those moments. There's sometimes he goes through a player and you're just like, he didn't need to do that there. He didn't need to do that. But he was also involved in attacking sense. It was his ball to Kane flicked on for Kulusevski. No, sorry, for Son's goal. It was Lloris for Kane for Kulusevski. Involved again. Romero was good again. He is a class above. And Charlie Eccleshare from The Athletic did a very good interview with him this week. It's worth looking up. Nice sort of kind of, I always say this, it's nice to see the human side of these players. We, and myself included, you end up sometimes seeing them as these people on a TV screen or in a computer game, and they kind of become characters rather than humans. And it's a really nice interview. It talks about also, because he's just become a dad. Valentino, his little boy, about 2.5 months ago. It's not too long ago. A lot of Spurs young kind of new signings are doing that. I think Bentancur, I think, is going to become a dad quite soon as well. He's 24, isn't he? So, yeah, but it's a really nice interview. And it just shows how, Romero, he's fallen in love with Tottenham Hotspur. And Kulusevski said the same thing, how much he's in love with the club. And that's where we're at right now. That's the Conte effect. That is a club that feels like the Poch time again. When everyone's happy to be there and they're all friends. I always pay quite close attention to the warm-ups, see how the players interact with each other, kind of without the pressure of the match, and just it's all smiles, it's all laughs, and I always watch the training footage as well that is put out, and especially the longer form videos. So it's not just what Spurs are giving you; it's a bit more of a kind of a sense of things, and it is that vibes back. That of course winning does that. They've won 4 in a row. Is it 6 of the last 7 in the Premier League, maybe as well? And that of course makes people happy. But even before that, I think they could just feel something's being built. And for new players to instantly love it, and I'd imagine if you asked Bentancur as well, he'd probably say, "Yep, playing every game, loving what I'm doing." It's happy days. It is, and it does make doing these videos so much easier than ranting away. Very, very good indeed. And they've taken charge. They have taken charge of that 4th place at the moment. -2, as I said a few weeks back, +19 now. I want to say this: sit 3 points clear of Arsenal, who have that game in hand, but obviously still have to come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And Arsenal's goal difference is 9. Now, the swing in the last 2 games has been incredible. So they're 9 goals behind Spurs now. Spurs with 19, Arsenal with 9. It's just crazy. West Ham and Man United 6 points behind the Spurs now. Both played the same amount of matches. Obviously, West Ham still to play this weekend. And they both got far inferior goal difference. I think maybe United's is 7 and West Ham 11, if memory serves me right. That's almost what it is, essentially like an extra point, So it really puts Spurs in the driving seat. And what's the good thing as well from Spurs' perspective is that, these other teams have got their tougher matches coming up now. So, Arsenal, I think they may have Southampton next, but then they've got a little run which I think takes in, not in this particular order, but I think it takes in West Ham, Chelsea, United. They've got to all play. Whereas Spurs, every game is difficult, as is being proved in recent weeks. But on paper, Guesty and I always chuckle when we use that expression because we use it a lot, especially when it comes to Tottenham. But on paper, Spurs could start. I was saying to, I think it was to Guesty yesterday, because we were talking about that potentially deciding North London derby. And I was saying, do you know what? I'd like Spurs to maybe be in a position where it's not so deciding. I think if they can keep going as they're going, and somehow get there, obviously they've got the Liverpool match just before, but if they can get to those last, 3 games of the season and be in a position where it's almost not an all or nothing game, I think they could. I think they could. I think this is Tottenham. So my next video could very much be a but, I just feel like Conte's mentality is now spreading through this team. You can feel the way they play, the way they're thinking about matches, the way they're fighting. It's very much they're embodying their head coach now. And that's it's crucial. And that's what's important as well. I said earlier about how Spurs players had to make the decision of, do they just be content that their rivals had lost and just mean, okay, well, it doesn't matter what we do today, or do they grab the game and say, right, let's take advantage of that? And Conte actually said his quotes afterwards. He spoke about that. He said, to know that your opponent lose their games, and for sure they have to give you the right desire, the right will to get 3 points. Because in one hand, our rivals lost the games if we lose, but we're still in the 4th place. But a little medium team can think that. A top strong team thinks that this is the right moment to improve the distance over your rivals and exploit this situation. We did this despite the difficulty of the game. I repeat, we didn't play against a team who are not good. We played against Aston Villa in this stadium. It's not easy for anyone to win here. And I would say the atmosphere in that first half especially was brilliant. It was. The Villa fans were absolutely roaring the team on. It was quite a cauldron. Villa Park, I like Villa Park. It's an old school. It's got the White Hart Lane vibes about it. It's that Holt End as well. It's a nice stadium. Don't get me wrong. When the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is in full voice, the noise is deafening. But the Villa fans in that first half were excellent. And then, essentially, as I said, they got slapped down, Villa, by Spurs in the second half, and it became all you could hear with the Spurs fans. I mean, the Spurs fans were trying to make themselves heard in the first half as well, but second half they absolutely came into their own. Only downside, obviously, the game was Matt Doherty. It was, like I said, I looked back at the replays, and almost like the scissor action of the tackle, it's kind of rocked his knee. It's one of those where I don't know whether the fact that he tried to play on a couple of occasions is a good thing or a bad thing. I think someone pointed out, was it Thiago? Played on and then was out for 3 months with a knee problem. We'll see. I mean, I got, where were we? Conte's quotes. I hope nothing serious. I hope the doctors are going to check on him tomorrow. I hope nothing serious because he wanted to try to continue to play, but then in the end he preferred to come out. I hope he's okay because Matthew, I love that, is so important for us, and I hope this injury is not serious. Yeah, he loves calling him Matthew Doherty. And I know what he means, and this is with no disrespect meant to Emerson, who's a very different kind of fullback rather than a wing-back. But he just doesn't have the same decision-making ability as Doherty does in the final third. He just doesn't. There were a few moments yesterday when, especially first half, his passing was very loose. Second half, he was better, but there's still, I think there's an idea in his head of, I'll just give it to you guys. And as I think I've said this before, there's a little bit of a bit of a joke in the press area that best case scenario with Emerson is often a corner. If Spurs win a corner from what he does, it's like, okay, that's something, because you don't really expect. I think it's still one assist this season? But he fought hard, and I think it wasn't a bad performance at all. But just in terms of the attacking, he doesn't add too much other than an extra body up there, which maybe can draw another player away to allow Kulusevski to do what he does, which is no bad thing. But I think when Matt Doherty's there, you see combinations, you see link up, you see him linking up with Kane and with Kulusevski, and also being a threat of coming in. Yes, I know Emerson scored last weekend, but that's not the norm, and fair play to him for doing it. But with Doherty, he's more of a threat. Indy's having a dream. Indy, wait. It's a bit weird, mate. I don't know if they can hear it or not, but it's a bit weird. So yeah, hopefully it's not a bad modality. We'll hear more, obviously. We've got a press conference maybe Thursday this week. I feel like Conte's a little bit of, as most people are in football, a superstitious man. It is twitching and everything. It is a proper dream. Maybe replaying the match in his head. It's very distracting, mate, as I'm trying to talk about Tottenham. Conte's quite a superstitious man, I think, as most football people are. So the fact that he had his press conference on the Thursday, which is a bit unusual last week, and Spurs won, I get the impression that he'll probably do it again. And hopefully we'll find out more about Doherty then. But, his mark is all over this Tottenham team now, Conte. You can really see it. Obviously, I've said this before, but the full weeks he's getting almost to work with the team on the pitches, it's starting to balance out the lack of pre-season that he had with the club. He's drilling those players. The players have said that they're just going through, it's a lot of repetition. It's going through tactical scenarios on the training pitches over and over and over again until it's second nature to them. And now I think you're starting to see, almost like learning a new language. They are going out onto the pitch, and what they're doing is they're replicating, and he said that, Conte, they're replicating things on the training pitches out on the pitch in match situations, and that's, exactly what he wants. And you know what? And I know this is something that I don't think a lot of people like to hear, but, look, let me first off say, we all want to win trophies. Of course we do. Conte wants to win trophies. But I cannot help but think that being out of the Conference League is one of the best things that's happened to Tottenham this season. And I know that sounds awful because Conte wants to win a trophy. I want Spurs to end this trophy drought. But I just feel that to be in this period of the season with full weeks to work with the team, and don't get me wrong, Benson Kulusevski, excuse me, been another massive, massive factor in if Tottenham make the top four. But I do think that we're now getting these weeks where Spurs haven't got a European game in between, a trip across to wherever. It's playing a big role because, as I said, Conte is getting this version of a pre-season right towards the end of the season. And it's no coincidence they're walloping teams 5-0, 5-1, 4-0, 4-0 at leaders as well. You're seeing the results on the football pitch. So I know that those who are desperate for trophies will say, "Gold, you muppet, we want trophies." But there's a question for you. By all means, give me the answer back in the comments. Would you have rather won the Conference League this season, but maybe finished 6th or 7th? It's a tough one, that. I'd struggle with that one as well. I think it would have been big for the club to win a trophy, but I maybe feel that in terms of the long term and potentially keeping Conte and Kane and building, maybe the top four is more important. This is a difficult one. I don't ever want to throw away the chance for a trophy, but I think that's kind of almost what might be happening this season. It was a daft decision for them to not be expelled anyway, as they were from the Europa Conference League. It was, but we're not revisiting that. But I do think the benefits might end up outweighing the negatives. But that is for the masses to decide. Like the masses watch these videos. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know people's thoughts. By all means, as I love the comments that I get under. There's always really interesting stuff. But also, yeah, chuck in your thought on that. If you've got this far in the video, chuck in that as well, and I'll know whether you've got this far in the video because I'll know that you included that in your comment as well. Yeah, it's an interesting one. That they're not quite the final product, of course, that Conte wants. There's more to be done, but it's getting there, and the process is building. It's the process is underway. He said yesterday, for sure to see this type of improvement makes me proud. It gives me great satisfaction. At the same time, I know very well that we have to continue to work under this aspect. The same players know very well they have to continue for this type of improvement because there is not only a tactical or technical or physical aspect during the game. There is this mentality. The mentality, they know we have a lot of space for improvement. Today they showed me that the desire to also improve this aspect. Don't forget in the past there was a game when I was very upset, but with the players we have an honest relationship. They know that I like to tell them everything that is true and not a good lie because I want to improve my players. I think there is a good connection, a good relationship with me and the players because the players trust me. But especially me and the staff, we trust a lot to them. Now we have to continue in this way. Rest, but at the same time we have to prepare the game against Brighton. Brighton won against Arsenal, is a really good team, and if we win here and they don't win and then don't win on Saturday, you cancel a bit the positive thing you did. For this reason, we rest one day, then our focus has to be for the next game. And he, says it all there. It is. If you then lose at home to Brighton, you undo a lot of the good stuff you've done in the last, last weeks. But this is a different Tottenham now. It is. Yeah, I like the knitting analogy. I'm going to go there. It is. Yeah. It is. He's knitted together a club that was so frayed. It really was frayed and tattered. And you know what? It's not just in the faces of the players. I see it in the fans. Obviously, he was on the train back with loads of them from Birmingham New Street and then also back to Tottenham Hale as well. And thank you very much, by the way, to the very many nice people I met on the journey. They nicely caught the balance of having a lovely chat, but also letting me do my work, which I got so much of after matches, and it was very much appreciated. Lots of really nice people. But you can see it on their faces, and they were singing all the way back to Tottenham Hale, pretty much. Just chanting. One awkward incident on the escalators down to the Victoria line at Euston, where they were, someone started banging on the middle metal bit that separates the two different directions of the escalator, banging as they were chanting, managed to somehow hit something underneath that stopped the entire escalator, and we were like that for a moment, which was not ideal, but it was born out of good nature rather than being plonkers or something, and it was just the whole way back, the songs and the chants, and I think because I'm used to working at matches and the noise, I can still work. So it wasn't like it was annoying in any way. It was actually a really nice backdrop to what I was doing. And everything. The Kulusevski chant is a biggie right now, isn't it? That is a popular chant, especially because he's playing so well. I'm sure he's very aware of it. I think he finds it quite funny. I think his mates find it quite funny. But yeah, that was sung a lot. And some of the old classics that I hadn't heard in a while were also wheeled out. But my point is that the fans are happy again. The fans feel like they've got their Tottenham Hotspur back, which it's been very buried quite deeply. Now it's about pushing on, and it's about backing Conte this summer, because if he can do what he's done with 2 of his own signings, what's he going to do with a summer's worth of signings that are tailored towards him? It's a very exciting thought, and it's just like there's no scenario now where Daniel Levy cannot back Antonio Conte. The relationship with Conte and the fans is so high. He is After the game, he went over and was shaking his fist, and they chant his name multiple times through games. There's a really beautiful relationship forming there. And for Conte, a guy who, look, to be brutally honest, purely looking at his CV, he doesn't hang around at clubs too long. There's a variety of reasons for that, and whether it's his own desire or not. But I feel that, especially a guy that used to be a Chelsea manager, the Spurs fans have absolutely taken to him. Of course, the results, the football, the style of play, it all kind of becomes this package. But if Spurs, he's got all the cards. He does. He holds all the cards. Spurs know whatever Conte wants this summer has to be done, because you can't give up what's happening right now. And the most dangerous thing would be for, Levy in the club to look at what's happening now and go, well, look what he's doing with his players. Why does he need much more? No. Don't think like that. Do not think like that. That's the attitude of those two transfer windows when Spurs didn't buy anyone at the Poch. Oh, but look what he's doing with this. Does he really need that? Yes, because that's the next level. And Conte won't stand for that. They mess around in the transfer window. He will not stand for it. He walked out on Juventus in pre-season. Was it a couple of weeks into pre-season once? And that's Juventus. He will not think twice of doing that at Tottenham if he feels that he's being undermined or, he isn't being sufficiently backed. They have to. The pressure is on. This is a good time for Tottenham Hotspur, and they need to build on that. It's never, honestly, I've said this a million times what a big summer this is. Indy's about to... Indy, wait. No, he's going to jump off. I thought we might actually get him on camera for a change, but instead he decided to jump off the sofa. I said it before, this is a big summer for Tottenham, but if anything, it's actually getting even bigger because of what's happening on the pitch. Spurs do get top four and they've got the Champions League next season. They have to bring in players to be able to compete in that as well. But not only that, Conte making very not so subtle words about what he was asked about, because obviously next season in the Premier League you'll have 9 subs again, but you'll be able to make 5 substitutions. And his first things about that is all the clubs now know. You're going to have to bring in more players in the summer and build bigger squads. It was like, wait, like a bigger wink. I'm talking to you, Daniel. It's at the moment very exciting. It is. It could be a terrific summer. If Spurs keep going as they're going, it could be a really exciting end of the season, and we'll all head off and on our summers. And I say head off like I'm not going to be working still every single day. But it'll be very exciting. But Conte, he won't want talk of future right now. He won't even want talk of the summer. He will have his chats with Paratici as he does about improving things, but right now it's about the now, the present, the final push. Spurs have just got to keep doing what they're doing. He's got them flying again, and they've got enough days between matches where they can rest up. Excuse me, obviously, the North London derby is going to be the one game, ironically, where they're not going to have that, and they are going to have that penultimate week where, they've got 3 games in 7 days. 7 days, isn't it? So they will be back to how they were doing, and he's going to have to work out a way to prepare them for that and also rotate, because that's the thing right now. He's not really having to rotate, and that means you're getting these very stable performances. But in those games, you're probably not going to be able to play all 3 of the same lineup. Lots to think about. Can't really do a loan roundup so much today because obviously it's Sunday and there's still a lot of fair few games still to be played. Just kind of some little highlights off the top of my head. Troy Parrott's got another cracker in the derby as well. Out for MK Dons against AFC Wimbledon. I think it was the equaliser. I've seen so many angles of it. It is a beautiful... He kind of pulls away, gets himself some space, ball's drifted in, and he volleys it, smashes it in off the crossbar. And the fact that follows up a lovely lob for MK Dons, was it the last game or the game before? And then obviously the rocket goal that won the friendly against Lithuania for Republic of Ireland. It's coming on some. We always knew he had a very good technique, but now he's starting to do it on the kind of the big stage in match situations. huge strides for Troy Parrott in recent weeks. And this is lovely because he's had a good season. He's worked really hard, especially in the last few months. He's really come on. But then maybe the goals weren't there. And now he's allying the goals with that. Huge. In terms of Lo Celso and Ndombele obviously scored against West Ham in the week, which gave Lyon a big kind of goal there. And Lo Celso was voted man of the match in the Champions League game against Bayern for Villarreal. So, yeah, they're doing well. I think it was John Veal that asked Conte about Lo Celso, actually, in the presser and said, will he be coming back to Tottenham in the summer? It was a very much swerve round kind of answer. It was like, he's doing really well. And then he kind of made it very clear it's because he's in a league that he's very comfortable in. I'd be surprised if Lo Celso or Ndombele have anything to do with Tottenham's squad next season if Conte is the manager, which hopefully he will be. It's an interesting one because I've seen a lot of people doing the old classic, oh yeah, but we can sell them both and we get loads of money to put towards other transfers. And it doesn't work like that. I don't get the impression Lyon will want to buy on Ndombele, more likely a loan, and Villarreal I think will probably try for another loan as well. I think that maybe the good thing, especially with Lo Celso, is that his performances a lot of people will be taking notice of. I don't think there's any option to buy in his loan deal with Villarreal, which means that, another team could come in. He played very well against Juventus as well and against Bayern. So do these big teams now look at him and think, you know what? Maybe we take a punt on him. It's a real shop window move, and that could benefit Tottenham. I don't know if Villarreal will pay the sort of money that Spurs would want for him, because this is the thing, his stock is actually going up, which you never know with him perhaps, but with Ndombele I think it's going to be another tricky situation with him and who splashes out that money. But yeah, so there you go. Brighton this weekend, or next weekend. I'm actually going to take a few days off this week. I'm going to recharge myself and come back fit and fresh for the Brighton match, which obviously they'll be confident after coming to London and getting a big win at Arsenal, and they'll be looking to do the same again across the other side of North London. But Tottenham, confidence has got to be absolutely flowing through them right now. I'd be intrigued to see whether, with another week's worth of training, whether Sessegnon Reguilon starts on the left. If he changes up the lineup, it's going to be a proper battle, that one. I kind of get the feeling that he prefers Sessegnon as maybe the better attacking player of the two. Maybe we'll find that out. Again, it depends on fitness. Sess has been out for more than a month, whereas Reguilon was only out for a week or so with his knee problem. So if it comes down to fitness, it may be that Reguilon gets the nod. But interesting to see where that goes. And hopefully we'll hear good news on Matt Doherty. Oliver Skipp, of course, very annoyingly felt for him especially, felt a bit of pain while he was doing his outdoor training. I said to Conte, I was like, this pelvic problem is one that needs rest to fix. Is there any temptation to just let him rest now for the rest of the season? And then he's got the summer and he comes back fully healed. And he was like, no, absolutely not. He was like properly like, I am not letting that happen. I think his idea is that Skippy needs a target. Skippy can't just be like, yeah, okay, now relax and we'll think about it next season. He wants Skip to have a target in mind of being back for this Premier League season to play his part in the run-in. And I get that. I just hope it doesn't keep aggravating the problem. Because, I'm a massive Skippy fan, and being able to add his drive to matches, especially from the bench at first, but also when I say we've got that big week coming up of 3 games, that's when you want Skippy in there as well for certainly starting at least one of those games. So fingers crossed on him. And obviously we know Japhet Tanganga's out to the pre-season with his knee operation. So there you go. Good vibes at Tottenham Hotspur right now. Actually going to just hopefully just come in under the hour this time, which is the first time in a little while. But hopefully you've still got enough in there to keep you busy on a very sunny day. Although, let's be honest, you should be out there in the sunshine as well. That's what I'm going to do in a little moment. But as I say, working tomorrow, and I'm going to take a few days off. and then come back for the Brighton game. And hopefully this all continues and we can continue to enjoy the Tottenham Hotspur we want to see. So as always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.